Hello everyone, welcome back to SDN Bits. In today's video, we are going to continue the exploration of Arista's network automation and programmability options. And in this episode, we are going to build a new script from scratch, and the purpose of this script will be to get backup configurations from our Arista switches, right? So let's just go ahead and start. As you can see on my screen, I have the same lab topology from the previous videos, and I have 3 active switches here, the spine 1, the leaf 3, and the leaf 4 switches. So as you might have recalled from the previous videos, I am using my spine 2 switch not only as a network switch, but also as a place where I store my Python scripts, where I run and execute my Python scripts. And in this scenario, this is not only a switch, but a basic network automation controller, because Arista's EOS allows us to use the Linux shell, take advantage of the Linux shell, and build whatever we want to build on it. So I will just go ahead and open up my spine 2 switch here. I will drop to the bash shell. I will go to the flash directory, because this is where I store my Python scripts. I have a dedicated directory for my scripts, and I have called it PyAPI scripts because the vast majority of scripts I have constructed are based on PyAPI library, right? So I will just list this, I will just go to this directory first, and I will list the content of this directory, which is basically 2 files from the previous videos. But in this video, we're building a new script from scratch. So let's go ahead and create it now. I'm going to create a blank script called, let's say, backup.py. And let's start by filling the script with basic Python recommendations. So first, I'm going to obviously start with the shebang, because I do not want to specify Python 3 every single time when I want to execute a script. I want it to be executable file, and I just want to execute it like any other Linux file, Linux executable file. So in my case, Python 3 will be the interpreter, and I will put a little doc string to describe what I'm going to do here. So this script is intended for backup, let's say backup config retrieval, and let's enclose our doc string. Let's import the most important library, which is the brain of this script, the PyAPI library. And now let's instantiate a node object to classify our Arista switches, basically. So we are going to build a script which will retrieve the running configuration from the switch and then store this output in the text file, right? To achieve this, let's start from the basics. So let's work on a single device, and let's test our script on a single device to make sure that we can actually retrieve the config and print it out. So I will start from the leaf 3 device, let's say, this one right here, or it can be leaf 4, it doesn't matter. I'm starting with leaf 3, just to show you that how this script works on a very basic level, right? So I will go ahead and I will use PyAPI's connect to method, and I will specify leaf 1 as a device I want to work on. And then I will have to use getConfig function of PyAPI library to get the running config from the Arista switch. Now, in this case, let's store the output of this file in the variable called output, which is very simple. And I am going to call the node that we have instantiated, which is basically the leaf 1. So this is leaf 1. And I want to get running config of leaf 1 device. So get config, right? And I have to specify what exactly I want to get. So there are 2 types of configs that we can get. We have startup config and running config. In this scenario, we're interested only in running config, so I will just specify running config like this. Okay, and now let's try to print this out, and let's see what we will have, right? So printing the output variable. I'm going to save the script, yes, but before running it, I will make it an executable file, because as you can see right now, backup py is not an executable. It doesn't have the permission. So let's just convert it to an executable file by using chmod 777, which means executable privileges. And if I check again, now we have an executable privilege right here. The X stands for executable. Okay, so now let's try to run this script or execute the script. Connection profile not found. There is a slight error because I said leaf1. Why I said leaf1 when leaf1 is not active? So let's just go ahead and change this to leaf3 because that was our original intention. That's just a small typo from me. And save the script again and execute. Perfect. We have an output which is basically a running configuration of the leaf3 device right here. But as you can clearly see that this is not a human readable output. So to make it human readable, right, to make it more like standard output on the CLI, for example, if I open the leaf3 with a CLI and I say show run, this is the type of output I get, right? This is very clear and human readable output. So I want to get exactly the same. I have to separate the end lines, and basically I will go ahead back to my script. So backup.py, and I will try to make it more clean. So let's say I will create a new variable called config, and this config variable will store the sanitized, let's say, or let's say more human readable output of our raw output. So we have to basically join the end lines, right, by using the join function, and we have to specify the raw output here. So it will take the raw output and it will basically join the end lines, and this will give us much more clear and human readable output, exactly like we have in the CLI, right? Because that's what we want to store in the text file. So this looks okay, and obviously we have to print the new variable now. So let me just go ahead and do that. Save the file, and let's try to run it again. It didn't work for what reason, I don't know. Let me just check it. So I am storing the output, the raw output here. This is the raw output, and then I'm joining it with the, I think it's a slash. It has to be the slash, I think. It was, yeah, it was basically the slash that made the mistake. So let me just change it to backslash. I'm still getting confused with the slashes. And yeah, that's it. That's much better. This output of running config is exactly what we want, and it's exactly what we have on the, basically, on the CLI, right? Look, just carbon copy of it. Perfect. Now we have successfully tested and ensured that our get config function works properly, and we can indeed connect to the Arista switch via API and retrieve the running config. Now let's go ahead and create a basic script that will actually store it as a text file, store the output. So let's go back to the backup.py, and now let's use the with statement to open a text file and basically create a text file where we will store the content of the output of the config, basically, yeah. So with open, let's say it will be leaf3 in our case, leaf3 txt, and we want to write the output here, 1, 2, 3, the indentation, and then we will have to basically, sorry, I forgot to add the file here statement. So file write cfj, right? Cfj, and we don't have to print it anymore, right? So this should create a leaf3.txt file and then write the content of CFJ to this text file. So let's just go ahead and test it. And we have our text file. Perfect. Yeah, this is exactly what we needed. So now you can see we have constructed successfully two basic parts of the script, retrieving the configuration file and then storing it on the text file. Now let's scale our script to include other devices in the infrastructure and to make it more efficient, right? So I will go back to my script and let's try to get config from not only the leaf3, but other active devices in our infrastructure, which is leaf4 and spine2, right? So how are we going to do that? There are multiple ways of doing it, but let's start with the basic ones, the static ones, let's say. So let's just create a list of elements, and these elements will be the host names of our devices as per eapi.conf file. So I will have to go back to sorry about this. Yeah, I will have to go back to the eapi.conf file, which I store again in my Flash directory. It has to be somewhere here. Yeah, there you go. So cat eapi.conf. As you can see in this file, I have the default credentials and connection method, and I have specified three objects here, which are my three network switches. The spine2 with its loopback IP address, leaf3 and leaf4 with their corresponding loopback IP address as well. So our list will store the host names of the inventory devices, right? So let's go back to the script itself and let's create a list which will store it, right? So let's say it will be the switches variable, and it will store a list of names, the host names. Or actually, let's put it in like host names, right? Why not? Host names or host name. That's much more pragmatic. Leaf3. Leaf3 and leaf4. Close the list. So now we have to iterate and use all elements in the list to get their running config. So we have to iterate through this list. And to do this, to accomplish this, we're going to use for loops, which are very useful in Python in general. So let me just think about it. So let's say for host in host name, or let's make it even more practical. Let's call it just hosts, right? For host in hosts, so indentation 1, 2, 3. So node object basically will have 3 different hosts each time, and we have to obviously delete this, and we have to say host. So first it will be spine2. Basically, if we go from the beginning of the list, the iteration will be like for host in host, so it will open this list, and host is the first element, spine2. It will appear here in connect to method, and node should connect to the spine2, and then exactly the same procedure must happen for all the switches here, all the hosts. So let me just do the indentation, and we need obviously 1, 2, 3. We need to write config for all of them, but the names, instead of saying the exact name, I will just put the host here. So it has to be something like txt, but of course txt will be the other part, and I have to merge it. I think this should be okay. It's a little bit uncomfortable to write scripts directly on the Nano editor, text editor, because it's not Visual Studio Code or some more advanced code editor, text editor, but yeah, I hope it's not gonna have a lot of syntax problems, but even if it does, it's a better way to learn and really understand the importance of syntax in the programming languages. So this should do just fine. As you can see, we are basically iterating through this list of elements of 3 network switches. First, it has to take spine 2 here, connect to it, and then it has to get the running config from the spine 2, store it in the raw output file. Then we're just going to make it more human readable by using the join method here. And then we are just going to open a new txt file named after the host, which is going to be spine 2 in the first scenario. And then we have to just write the content to this basically file. So let's go ahead and try to run the script, and let's see what we will get. I am very excited. So let me see. Let's just get rid of the previous text file. It's not necessary anymore, and let's run our backup script. So it's done. Okay, I do have files and they do have content. Let's check. Yeah, looks just fine. Looks just fine. Let's check the other ones. Cat leaves 3 txt. Perfect. Exactly what I needed. Leave 4 txt. Yeah, perfect. Good. It works just fine. So let's go back to the script and let's see what we can improve in our script. So this is very basic script. And what else we could improve here? Let's take a close look. Well, we could basically create a separate directory for the backup scripts. So let me just think about it. We can create another directory. Let's say the backup directory, and then backup directory. So for that, we could use the OS library to create a new directory and then store, but this is not necessarily something crazy. It's simple to do. What we should do in this kind of scripts is to absolutely important, we should include the exception handling, because now actually if I go back to my topology, you can see that I have this part of the topology and these devices are not active. So, and if we include these devices to our inventory file, eapi.conf file, when script is being executed, it will actually attempt to connect to these switches as well. But what happens if they are inactive, as in this case? It will fail. So we will have to use try and exception blocks to make sure that our script continues working and collecting backup configurations from the active devices, right? So it should not get stuck in operation whenever it detects that, for example, spine 2 is inactive, right? It should not just stop and quit. It should keep going and collect as much as backup data as it can. So let's go ahead and actually do that. Let's try to include this to our script, and let's see how it goes. So basically, we will have to just we just have to. So first we have to know what kind of errors we'll get when trying to connect to a device which is inactive, right? So let's just create a new script just for testing purposes, right? Let's say exception, or let's say just except.py, whatever you call it. And in this script, let's try to basically connect to a spine 1 device. But before doing that, I'm sorry, I have to include new devices to my eapi conf file, which is the simple inventory. So I went far away. Let's go back to the flash directory. Yeah. So open up the eapi conf. Perfect. Now let's just copy this, paste. So we have spine 1 with the address of 0.1, and we have leaf 1 and 2. So let me just copy this. No, not this part, this part. Yes, please. Paste 1 here and paste 1 here. Now we have to modify the IP addresses and the host names. So 4, 3, right? So now we have the exact order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect, perfect. And let's see how it goes. This is very interesting. CD back to the Python scripts, right? And let's go to, yeah, I was creating a new directory. Let's say exception testing, I don't know, except.py, for example, whatever, import py eAPI, and let's try to do the same thing. We'll try to get running config from one inactive device just to get the perspective, just to get and understand what kind of errors we're going to encounter. So node again py eAPI dot connect to, let's say, spine 1. Spine 1 is inactive, and let's just try to get an output. The output is going to be node get config and the running config, to be precise. Yeah, and let's just try to print output. We don't really care about the human readability now because it's not going to work anyway. We just need to see an error. So Control X, save, and let's just run it like this. So, okay. That's another issue. That's a stupid issue, which has nothing to do with what we are searching for. Yeah. Again, okay, perfect. So we have socket error during API connection. Network is unreachable. That's another way, but network must be unreachable because the device is unreachable. Device is inactive. What else? We have an OS error. Again, network is unreachable. Oh, this is interesting. I don't know why network is unreachable though. Like, so it's trying to establish. Okay, perfect. We have to try to establish session, but we must have an IP reachability first. That makes perfect sense. But this should work. So I'm not really getting. So let's go to the spine 2 device. Okay, let's go to leaf 3, whatever. We must have the reachability anyway. So show IP route. Yeah, but okay, but the device is inactive, and if I turn it on, it doesn't make sense. We have to connect to it. We have to actually try to connect to it. But okay, let's say there is just this error. Let's say this is it. This is one of the errors that we may encounter, the OS error, and let's include this error in our exception handling. So I believe we just have to take this part here. What else we have here? No, nothing else, just OS error. Okay, let's try that. So let's go back to our backup script and let's try to use try exception blocks to handle this error. So basically it will be try. You have to try connecting to the node, getting output obviously 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and you have to try out this 1, 2, 3, right? 1, 2, 3, yeah. But if it doesn't work, except I believe this is the syntax. So it was OS error, if I'm not mistaken. So if you have this error, you're gonna have to stop and let's say print device unreachable or unavailable, let's say, and let's yeah, that works fine. So we have to try connecting to a device. Obviously, script will just come to this part. It will not work, and it should drop to this part because there is no network reachability because the device is inactive. And using the OS error, we should try to connect to it. So okay. Let me just check one thing. I'm not quite sure if... Okay, the E is capital here. Let's actually... We don't even need the square brackets here to begin with. We need square brackets if we have multiple exception specified. So Control X, yes, and let's see how it's gonna run for the entire thing. So what we are doing here now. Let me just clear it first. And yeah, we are trying to run a backup script. The inconsistent use of tabs and spaces in the indentation. Okay, so I messed up with indentation. The line 19, inconsistent use of tabs and spaces. Inconsistent use of. I'm not quite sure. Maybe here. One, two, three. Right? Should be it. Try again. So what happened? Something is. So wait. Let me just delete anything which is txt. Yeah. Let's run it again. Do we have new? Okay. Okay, we fetched successfully config. Okay, so it looks like it worked because it has to work because we have tried to connect to other devices and it failed there. And it just kept on going with active devices and it collected their configuration. So this is the new config. It did it again. And yeah, it's a rewrite. Yeah, cool. But yeah, it just encounters OS error, and because it encounters OS error, it will just skip it, and it will continue for the next device. And I just have to make sure, because it's a little bit suspicious that I did it without encountering any errors, which is, so let me just check the eAPI conf file. I just want to make sure I included everything here. So I have this device. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. It works like a charm. So cd PyAPI scripts and okay. So let me just test another thing in this except file, nano except.py. We have encountered an error, but why we didn't print it out? Like, what I don't understand about my script is that I wanted to print it out. I think it. I don't know. I think it didn't even try. Try to get the out. Try to connect to them. It's a little bit confusing. So accept OS error, print device unavailable, but I didn't get this output. Like if it tried to establish a session with a spine wine device, let's say, because it's inactive, it should have understood that device is unreachable and it encounters an OS error, and then it should have printed out device unavailable string, but it seems like it's not even going there. So let me just see here. Yes, of course, I'm stupid. I forgot to specify those devices here. That's why it worked like a charm. Yeah, that was weird. So let's specify every single device in our infrastructure. Of course, this is not the efficient way of doing it in a huge infrastructure because now we have just 6 devices, but in real life production networks, you can have 6,000 devices, and there will be better ways to actually collect all these host names or dynamically search for them. But for the sake of simplicity in this tutorial, I am defining them statically so that script can also run faster. So this is going to be interesting now because now I've specified all of them, and now let's see, because it has to take some time to execute the entire thing for every device, because when it will encounter that one device is unreachable or unavailable, whatever, it must process some time to try to reconnect or reestablish a session or whatever it is we're going to encounter. So let's just run a script and see. So this is what I'm talking about. Yeah, we still encounter the same error. So let's just maybe include this error as well. right? Because this is what we actually see here. So I will just go ahead and I think we can do it like this. I think it's legal to do. So yeah, I'm not sure if it's the correct syntax for exceptions. Can we specify two exceptions in the square brackets without anything else? I think we can. I don't have any reason to think we don't, but let's just try it. Let's try and see. Now we're getting it. Now we're getting device available. But yeah, I mean, it does work because as you can see, we have exactly what we need. So our intention was to continue executing the script and get as much as backup data as you can. So even if 3 switches are unavailable, the other 3 switches, or these ones particularly, are available, are reachable, are active, are powered on, and script should not break in the middle, right? So if we did not specify try and exception blocks, the first device script would encounter as per the for loop would be spine 1. And spine 1 is inactive. So if there was no try and exception blocks, the script would just break by saying that I've tried to connect to spine 1, but it was inactive, it was unreachable, and because it's unreachable, I'm just going to break myself down. I'll just quit, and that's it. I don't care what happens after. I have encountered an error. I don't know how to continue, so I'm just going to quit. What try exception handling, try and exception blocks do is basically say, okay, you have encountered an error with spine 1. Just skip it. Let's say basically that device isn't available, and let's continue. Try with spine 2, and when it connects to spine 2, and when the connection is actually successful because spine 2 is active, just do whatever you had to do. And whatever you have to do means the content of the try block, right? Yeah, keep going, keep instantiating a node object, keep getting the running config of it, then storing it, and then joining the raw output to have a human readable format, and then just create a text file and store the content there. So it works fine. It does work fine. Now, what I a little bit didn't understand here is why we are still getting these errors if I told the script that you should just print this part. Like, is it because I'm printing it, or like this is the part I am not really sure? So let me see here. So let's try to run it again. I will just delete again every txt file in the directory, and let's go back to the let's actually go back and see what we got here. So we had OS error again, and we had okay, we still have an OS error. So we do not get this error now, which was we don't get the previous error. So we had 2 errors here that we are trying to handle. We had the PyAPI eAPI lib connection error, which does not appear on the second execution. As you can see, there is no, it does not appear, which is a natural thing. It shouldn't. But this one still appears, OS error, and I do believe this is something really not related to it. Because why would network be unreachable? Network is unreachable because it's not in the routing table, but how it can be in the routing table if device is inactive? Device is inactive. I should enable the device so that it advertises its loopback IP address, and then it gets the routing table of other devices of the spine 2 in our case. So this is the thing I'm a little bit confused about. But otherwise, the script works just fine. This is exactly what we need to do. Now we can create more advanced script. We can actually create functions which will basically make everything more facilitated, right? We can have function which basically just connects to a device. Another function can just get the config. Another function will just write the output to the text file. And I have actually done that, and I have actually uploaded this, not upload, but actually just you can actually see this file on my Git repository on which I will share under the video. So if you're interested in this script, which is a little bit more, let's say, efficient in terms of different functions doing the same thing, you can go ahead and take a look at that script. And yeah, we could also try to try to understand what else we could do to optimize the script. I mean, as I said before, we have still this, let's say, minor issue here that we have to specify devices in our inventory statically, but if we have a lot of devices, we cannot just specify them. I mean, you could do it, and it would be, again, it would be a fine script, because statically specifying each host name would make your script run faster, because it does not have to search for something dynamically, and it's more secure in under certain circumstances. It can be more secure, but still, I will just try to find a better way to really like fetch the host names of devices in our infrastructure by not specifying them statically, by doing something dynamic maybe. So, but this is the material for the next video, and I think for today's video it's pretty much enough. We have successfully accomplished a backup configuration retrieval script, which will basically get running config from all of your running devices, even if there are a lot of inactive devices. The script will not break, the script will not quit, because we use try and exception blocks to handle those exceptions, and the script will keep going until it gets every possible backup configuration from every possible device in the infrastructure, and it will store them as a clean txt file, right? So let's run it just again to show you how clean the file is. And if you check one of them, let's say leave 3txt, yeah, as you can see, it's very human readable, exactly a CLI format. So this is just an example of what you can do with Arista's PyE API library to efficiently manage your infrastructure and to make sure it is safely synchronized, and the backups are in their place. So thank you for watching to this video, and please comment below your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to get more content about network automation, software-defined networking, net DevOps, everything else that can be of your interest in networking field in general. Thank you again for watching. It's done for today, and see you in the next videos.